now tuned in.
You are now tuned into
the realest show on YouTube with your host, the Angryman.
Yeah, so the whole SWV thing. So a while back, sometime last year, I put up a post of what's the name? Leela. I think that's Layla. I don't know how to pronounce her name. But there's a video of her with what's homegirl name? What's the little girl name that's messing with Jonathan Majors right now? Y'all know who I'm talking about? What's the girl's name? The one that's messing with Jonathan Majors. What's her name? Megan Good, right? So Megan Good and Layla was in a video, and I don't know, she must have been celebrating a birthday or something or whatever. Now keep in mind, it was a shock for me because I hadn't seen Layla in a minute. And she looked really different. Let me just say that. She looked really different. And so I reposted it and I know that ain't who I think it is. And I didn't really say anything at the end of the video. I just gave one of my classic looks, like. You know what I'm saying? I just gave one of my classic looks. And apparently, Black Hollywood made their own, invented what I must have been saying in my head, right? Or they probably were thinking the same thing and made the assumption that I was thinking what they were thinking, and so they got offended by it, right? Because the video on Instagram, it got like a few million views or something like that. And so there was a bunch of people from Black Hollywood in that comment section just going ham on me. You feel what I'm saying? Shorty from SWV was going in on me. Sukiana made a comment, but she didn't really insult me. She just said, everybody gets older and we all go through changes. Surprisingly, Sukiana actually said something that was neutral, that wasn't really messed up. Everybody else was attacking me, talking about well, look at how you look, So Shorty from SWV came at me crazy. That really big chick from the show Sisters, the chick on there, I don't know if y'all watch the show Sisters, but Tyler Perry got a show called Sisters. There's a really big chick on there. Like she was in the comment section talking crazy. The comedian Pierre, light-skinned Pierre, he had something goofy to say, a bunch of virtue signaling and all types of crap. And Brandon T. Jackson, Mr. wearing a dress himself, had something to say. And I finally found out why he was so offended. This is why he was so offended. He was offended because they had a show coming out. You feel me? So she's playing his mother in the show. Like you can't make this up. So Brandon T. Jackson got mad at me because I was talking about his fictitious mother from the show that he was about to be in, and he shamelessly used my post with millions of views to try to promote his show. I know that's what you were trying to do, Brandon T. Jackson. I know that's why you were going back and forth with me, because after you made the comment and I roasted your ass, you feel me, like Kenny Rogers roasters, the very same day you put a post up promoting this whack-ass show that ain't nobody gonna watch. Like, didn't nobody know about the show before? Don't nobody know about the show now? Don't nobody care about the show, okay? Because most people don't even watch BET anymore, much less a BET original series, right? Now, look, don't get me wrong. I don't got nothing against Quincy back there. Shout out to Quincy. Shout out to Al B. Sure. I don't got nothing against Pooh. You feel me? I don't know his last name. Pooh something. I forgot his name. But he played in what's that show he used to play in? I can't remember that show. I ain't got nothing against Pooh or Pooh, whatever your name is, bruh. All I know about you is you charge too much for a walkthrough. I know that. I know that about you. At one point, me and Izzy Bands was going to try to do party promotions and stuff right there. And what that dude was charging to walk through a club, he's bugging. You ain't worth that much, fam. I hate to say it, but it is what it is, fam. I know this actress from some other things. I ain't really got nothing against her. I see David Banner back there. I ain't mad at you, David Banner. Go get your paper. I don't really know that dude right there. You feel what I'm saying? But Brandon T. Jackson, that was shameless, bro. The way you tried to use little old me to promote your show. Look, don't be mad at me because my post was getting more views than your post was getting. Don't be mad at me, bro. It ain't my fault. And by the way, for you and Pierre, you still got an open invitation to come to the show. I asked you to come over here and explain to me what I said, what I said that was wrong. Like, real talk. I gave you the opportunity to come over here and tell me what I said that was wrong. You feel me? And they not the only ones. There's a few more black celebrities that was in that comment section with a whole bunch of goofiness to say or whatever. But don't worry. I have a mental Rolodex of who said what. Do not worry. I got a mental Rolodex of who said what. Brandon T. Jackson, comedian Pierre, Shorty from SWV, old girl from Sisters, there's one more. There's one more. Oh, Miss Jones. Almost forgot about you. Miss Jones. Yeah. So, you know, it is what it is. Like, if you want to come over here and question what I said, you can be my guest. But see, I don't think y'all realize, I don't think you black celebrities in Hollywood realize what's happening. This is what's happening. Hollywood, not just black Hollywood, but Hollywood overall is doing this. And social media influencers like myself is doing this. So what's slowly happening is your relevance is disappearing while our relevance is growing. That's why you all up in that comment section. Because if this was any other time, you wouldn't be in that comment section. I know what you in that comment section for. You in that comment section looking for relevance. That's what you're doing. You come over there, you see the clip, and it's like, Angryman, who is this guy? And why does he have millions of views on this post? I know that's why you in that comment section, clout chasing. That's why you in that comment section, ain't you? You in there clout chasing, ain't you? Who you think you fooling? You feel me? But here's the difference between me and you, Brandon T. Jackson. The difference between me and you is I never had to wear a dress to get to where I'm at. That's the difference. And for all the rest of you Negroes that got so much to say to me, here's the thing. I didn't have to sell my soul either to get to where I'm at. I didn't have to sell my soul. I didn't have to compromise my values and my integrity. I didn't have to put on no dress. I didn't have to do none of that weird shit that you did to get to the position that you at. But see, you got me twisted. Just because you look at me and say, well, he ain't no celebrity, he ain't nobody important, you just don't understand. I don't view you as no damn celebrity. I view every last one of you as regular people. I don't give a damn what movie you was in. I don't care what movie you was in. I don't care what shows you was on. I don't care about none of that. And by the way, Brandon T. Jackson, when you did that lottery ticket movie with Lil Bow Wow and you was on top of that roof and for a moment you got real when you was, yelling at him and stuff and getting all real or whatever. I know some of the dudes that hang around Bow Wow. And let me tell you something. You lucky they didn't. I'll just leave it at that. You lucky because you ain't built like that. And I'm not saying Bow Wow was built like that, but I know a couple of dudes that hang out with Bow Wow. You feel me? It's part of his entourage. You feel me? Don't think just because, see, that's the one thing y'all make a mistake about. Y'all think just because the one dude that's getting the money ain't built like that, you think you can do certain things and come at people a certain way. You got to look at the people that's around them. That's what you got to look at. You got to look at the entourage. You got to look at the people that's behind them. Mm-hmm. But like I said, anytime you celebrities have some crazy shit to say to me, you don't know who I know. And you don't know how much of your business I know. Like real talk, because there's some of you that got some business that ain't never came out. Ain't never came out. You feel me? But people know. People know. So stop coming to my comment section getting mad over jokes. You feel me? Stop coming over here getting mad over jokes. Y'all love to pick and choose who y'all think is exempt from jokes. Like, nah, ain't nobody exempt from jokes. You feel me? Nobody's exempt. And who knows? There's probably more celebrities in that comment section. I didn't have time to go through all of it. You feel me? I just find it funny. I just find it funny that Black Hollywood, or excuse me, the C level of Black Hollywood. You feel me? Not even the A-listers, not even the B. See, that's the other thing too. That's why I wasn't too excited about it, because the vast majority of you that was in that comment section are not A-listers. In fact, there's a few of you in that comment section. I actually make more money than you do. That's part of the reason why I wasn't impressed. Yeah, there's a few of you black celebrities in that comment section that I know for a fact is broke. Working actors. Desperately looking for the next paycheck. Because you ain't getting no real residuals because you didn't know how to handle your business at the beginning of your career and you signed a bunch of goofy contracts. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the type of energy I got. That's the type of energy I come with. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of energy I come with. You feel me? That's the energy that I come with. But, I'm always offending people. I'm always offending people, bro. I be chilling. I just be trying to do my thing. You feel me? I just be trying to do my thing. You understand? And Pierre, all that virtue signaling you was doing in my comment section, bro. You was like, yo, Country Wayne was on your show. And Country Wayne said he made $300,000 in 1 month. And Pierre, you said you wish you could make $300,000 a year. Pierre, you don't make $300,000 a year, bruh. Please tell me you ain't been in Hollywood this long. Please tell me you ain't one of the dudes that was on Def Comedy Jam. Please tell me you ain't been a celebrity since I was 12 years old and you don't make $300,000 a year What's going on, bruh? I mean, what's really good? What's really good? What's really good, bruh? But the way you was in that comment section, virtue signaling. But don't worry. One day, very soon, because we don't have that much of a degree of separation from each other. One day, very soon, I'm going to ask you that question, bro. I'm going to ask you, what did I say about her? I'm going to ask you, what did I say about her, Pierre? Because I'm going to tell you the truth. When it comes to Black Hollywood, I don't like y'all. I don't like y'all because most of y'all ain't about shit. And you know how I know you ain't about shit? Because every single time there's an election, it's predictable. It's like clockwork. You're always on the Democrat tit. You're always on some leftist Hollyweird bullshit. It ain't like with white folk. When white folk is in Hollywood, every once in a while, you'll come across somebody that's a Hollywood actor that's white that will stand on business and be like, nah, I'm a conservative. Every once in a while, you'll come across that with white folk. You're not going to look at Hollywood and all the white people in Hollywood are liberal. But for some reason, all you niggas in Hollywood is liberal. Something ain't right about that. Something do not make sense about that. And just every time you in an interview, you got something negative to say about Trump and Trump this and Trump that and Trump this. And I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't believe you. We don't believe you. You need more people. We don't believe you. Because I'm going to tell you something else too. Everything that the lefties and the progressives promote, no matter how weird it is, no matter how blasphemous it is, you niggas in Hollywood always co-sign that shit, and then you try to use your star power, your celebrity, to try to convince average, everyday black folk that they need to be cool with it too. And that's why I don't like y'all's asses. Because you misleading black people and you're using your fame and your celebrity to do it. Because you know a lot of black people will follow what you say just because you're their favorite actor or they seen you in classic movies or some shit like that. It's the most despicable shit I've ever seen in my life. You got every black person in America thinking they're wrong if they don't agree with the Skittle Squad. Got Nick Cannon up there having a conversation with Candace Owens. He talking like he ain't got no damn sense. Candace Owens got to reel him back in with some common sense. You Negroes, the way y'all be talking, I know damn well your grandparents, if they not living no more, is rolling over in the grave. Because you know your grandparents and your great-grandparents wouldn't agree with what you doing, how you talking, and the lifestyle you living. If they could come back for one day, they would drag you to they'd probably take their belt out, beat your behind, drag you to the church, and have the pastor pray over you. They would swear up and down you ain't got nothing but the devil in you. And you know it's true. Come to my damn comment section and get mad at me because I was surprised that an actress when she was younger, she was slim, and now she done swole up. You mad because I'm surprised about that? Well, guess what, Negro? I'm mad at all of the shit you co-signing. I'm mad at all of the stuff you out there doing in Hollywood. The funniest thing about it is they got Diddy sitting up there in jail in Brooklyn, and they need to round up some of the rest of you niggas. Because he wasn't the only one. He wasn't the only one. There's a whole lot of you that was at them parties. And he wasn't the only one throwing them parties. You got the right one. You went to my comment section talking smack. You didn't realize who the hell I was. You should have came over to YouTube and looked at what I actually talk about. Because I guarantee you, you don't want these problems. You don't want me calling you out. I can't stand Black Hollywood. I can't stand Black Hollywood. I can't stand them. Especially now knowing what I know about Black Hollywood. I can't stand Black Hollywood. Because Black Hollywood is part of the problem. You feel me? Black Hollywood, they another group of people that be on that race baiting shit. You feel me? They want to pretend like they understand that black folk are free, but if you do something that they don't believe aligns with what they believe black is, they want to talk some shit to you. You feel me?
If we agree with you, then we're black. We love black people. If we find ourselves in opposition to what you say, all of a sudden we hate ourselves and we hate black people. Who died and left you that kind of authority with your opinion? Who? Tell me.
See, there used to be a time where the biggest influence on black people was the music industry. After that, because you had music, you had black people in music long before you had a bunch of black people in Hollywood in movies and shit, right? In fact, it was in my lifetime that you finally got black movie stars, right? Now, sure, back in the day, you had people like Harry Belafonte, you had people like Sidney Poitier, but there was only a handful. It wasn't until the 80s when Eddie Murphy did Beverly Hills Cop that all of a sudden you start seeing blockbuster black actors like Eddie Murphy, Denzel Washington, Wesley Snipes, all of that. So when you get to that era, you start seeing Black Hollywood having a major influence on the culture, right? So you had music that had an influence on the culture, then you had movies that had an influence on the culture. But guess what? Guess what, rappers, R&B singers, movie stars, TV stars, guess what? You know what influences the culture now? This shit right here. This shit right here. This is what influences the culture now. This is what influences it. People like me. And you know why we've been able to snatch that influence from you? Because average everyday people are tired of you fake, phony, fraudulent individuals that pretend to be a certain way when you really full of shit. They tired of it. They tired of it. They tired of the politics. They tired of the virtue signaling and the freaking posturing and the pretending to care about certain things and all of this shit. They're sick of it. They're sick of it. And what they really want, they want to watch people that are being their authentic selves. But even more than that, they want to watch authentic people like myself that are not celebrities in the traditional sense, that are not part of legacy media. They want to watch us dismantle y'all. They want to watch us call you out for your obvious hypocrisy. Because before the internet, they just had to sit back and watch you be full of shit. And they felt powerless. They felt powerless. But now they don't feel powerless. Because when a Selena Gomez jumps on camera and starts crying, oh my God, the people, the babies, they know guys like Angryman is going to call out her fake, phony, fraudulent bullshit. How's you sitting on camera crying about Mexico when you a billionaire? You could have been did something to help them people. You could have went down there and got with the Mexican government and tried to use your money, your influence, your celebrity to try to initiate some type of reform. But the truth of the matter is, Selena Gomez, because you're basically royalty here in America, being a billionaire, you don't want no parts of Mexico, except for when it's time for you to virtue signal and pretend like you actually give a shit, which is really a covert way of trying to make Donald Trump look bad. That's the only reason why you're doing it. That's the only reason why you're doing it. Now, the most hilarious thing in the world to me is watching the news footage of people in Mexico protesting because there's an influx of immigrants from South America coming into Mexico. So Mexico didn't care that those caravans passed through on their way to America, but now that they can't come through the American border and they got to stay in Mexico, oh my God. They like, y'all can't stay here. What do y'all think y'all doing? You're not supposed to just come here and just post up. What? I know damn well that ain't Mexico telling South America that they shouldn't be allowed to come to their country illegally. I know damn well that ain't what's happening. Somebody come look at this. Somebody come look at this. I know good and well that is not what I see happening on that TV screen. Matter of fact, hold on. Let me pull up. Y'all want me to pull up the footage? What did Tommy used to say? Let's roll that beautiful bean footage. Let's pull it up so I can show y'all that I'm not full of it. Hold on. Let's pull it up. I think I showed it yesterday, but I'm going to show it again. Protest in Mexico against invaders. Invaders.
Tensions boiled over in the Mexican border city of Tijuana on Sunday. Hundreds of protesters hitting the streets, demanding that the massive caravan of migrants from Central America leave their country. Some holding signs reading, "Say no to the invasion," and singing the Mexican national anthem. Demonstrators accuse the migrants of causing chaos.
Wait a minute. Are they racist? Are they racist? They're calling the people from Central America, the people from Honduras and places like that, they're calling them invaders. They're singing the Mexican national anthem and waving the Mexican flag. What would have happened if Americans had went down to the southern border in Texas, waving American flags, singing the USA national anthem, and calling all of the people coming in invaders? They would have been called racist. They would have been called racist. They would have been called imperialists. They would have been called colonizers. They would have been called white supremacists. They would have been called everything under the sun. I swear to God, I'm so sick of the hypocrisy. I'm so sick of the hypocrisy, bruh. This shit is infectious.
From Central America leave their country. Caravan of migrants from Central America, hundreds of protesters hitting the streets, demanding that the massive caravan of migrants from Central America leave their country. Some holding signs reading, "Say no to the invasion," and singing the Mexican national anthem. Demonstrators accuse the migrants of causing chaos and breaking the law.
Mexico has always been a nation which opens its doors to anyone who needs it, but there are ways to enter someone's home and ask for support and help, and attacking authorities and knocking down barricades is not the right way.
Over the past week, nearly 6,000 migrants have poured into Tijuana and another nearby border city. The mayor says he's expecting that number to climb to 10,000. Many in the migrant caravan are from Honduras, fleeing poverty and violence, and they've received some help along the way. At Sunday's demonstration, a handful of activists showed up in support.
A few migrants are causing trouble, but not all of them. There are good people in this group, including women and children.
Over the past week, Mexico and the U.S. have stepped up security at the border. President Donald Trump deploying 6,000 troops to the area and suspending asylum for migrants who enter the U.S. illegally. Meanwhile, in Tijuana, authorities have urged the migrants to head to shelters for their own safety.
Now, this is what I got to say about this whole issue, right? And I saw earlier somebody said, "Hey, Angryman, they're asking podcasters to come to the White House to be part of the press room or whatever." Well, here's the thing. I don't know if you were saying that to suggest that I should try to do that. I don't have no desire to sit in the press room in the White House. And the reason why I don't have no desire to do that is because I don't have any questions for Donald Trump. I don't have any questions for him. I don't have no questions for Donald Trump. Only thing I have for Donald Trump is a request. And the request goes like this: all gas, no brakes. I don't got no questions for Donald Trump. I just want him to put his pedal to the metal. All gas, no brakes. You feel me? I don't got no questions whatsoever for Donald Trump. I just got a simple request. And that simple request is all gas, no brakes. And by the way, we need some more supporters. We need some more supporters. Hit the Cash App and support the show. In fact, we need a sponsor. But here's the other weird thing that caught my attention, and I had to do a YouTube short on it because it don't make no sense to me. It don't make no sense to me. I'm gonna say it, and when I say it, you're probably gonna think, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. So I'm gonna say it to you, right? In New York and other places, but I saw this in New York. There are illegal immigrants. Let's use Mexicans for an example. I saw a video of Mexicans who were here in America illegally protesting because they didn't want to get deported. And during the protest, they all were waving Mexican flags. So if you left Mexico because you didn't want to be in Mexico, and you're now here in America illegally, and you don't want to go back to Mexico, and you don't want to be deported, why the hell are you waving the Mexican flag during your protest? So I'm going to tell you what the problem is. I'm going to tell you what the problem is. Tell you what the problem is. How many of you in here, when you first moved out on your own, when you first got your own place as a young adult, how many of you made the mistake of letting someone stay with you for a brief while? How many of you, press one if you've ever made that mistake? You know, when you're young, you tend to make mistakes like that. You'll let someone crash at your house for a short period of time. Good. So plenty of people have done this, so you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about, right? What you'll notice is when you let someone stay at your place, when they first get there, they are super polite, super cordial. They do their best to stay out of the way, and they try their best not to inconvenience you, right? They don't be in the refrigerator trying to eat your food. They go get their own food. At night when you're asleep, they tip around the house. They're not trying to make no whole bunch of noise. They don't come in at all hours of the night. They do everything to accommodate you because they are grateful that you allowed them to stay there. But after a short period of time, they get comfortable. And once they get comfortable, this is when they start showing out. This is when they start coming into your house all times of night. They bringing friends over. You come home and it's that person and people they know sitting on your couch eating your damn Doritos and shit. You go to the refrigerator, they done drank up all your damn juice. And now You say something to them and they get an attitude with you because entitlement has set in and they forgot that you did this as a favor. They now think they are entitled to staying in your place. They think they're entitled to everything because when they first moved in, you didn't lay down no bunch of rules. And the reason why you didn't lay down no bunch of rules because you didn't have to, because they were being polite. They were being accommodating. But because you didn't have any strict rules, that's what gave them the license to feel that they could, let me test the boundaries. Let me see what I can do. That's what has happened with America. America has been so lax in its immigration policy that you now have people that think they can come into this country illegally and then openly disrespect this country while simultaneously trying to make the government of this country feel guilty about expecting them to show some respect for the country. In fact, I just saw a Chinese student had her visa revoked. She was leading protests. She was leading pro-Palestine protests. Now, here's my question. I would love for somebody to explain this to me. Why is a Chinese student who's from China leading pro-Palestine protests in America? Now, here's my solution to that, right? Now, in America, one of our rights is the ability to peacefully protest, right? That's one of our rights in America, right? That's one of our rights in America, right? Am I wrong? Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. One of our rights in America is the right to peacefully protest, right? Just because as Americans, we have the right to peacefully protest doesn't mean colleges should allow it. Now, I know some of y'all gonna say, come on, Angryman, that ain't right. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I think, personally, that colleges, because all colleges have rules. All colleges have things there are things you can do in college, you'll get expelled. I think all colleges should make a rule that when you are a student of that college, You don't get to protest. When you are a student of that college, the only thing you're supposed to be doing is getting an education. You shouldn't be allowed to protest. Now, what is the justification for that? The justification for that is a lot of protests lead to violence. A lot of protests lead to vandalism. A lot of protests lead to some horrible things. I don't think in this country, because we need to make some new rules. We need to make some new rules. We need to make some new rules because the way we're running colleges so loosely, it's giving people, whether in the college or outside the college, the ability to radicalize the students. I think they should have a rule. You know what's crazy about it? What's crazy about it is they have rules in college for athletes. There's certain things athletes cannot do or they'll get in trouble in college. If there's an athlete that's possibly on his way to the NBA, there's certain things he can't entertain or he'll get in trouble. Don't you find it weird that you have stricter rules for an athlete in college as it pertains to him playing a sport and possibly going pro than you have for students that are there strictly for academics? Like there should not be. College students should be just that, students, not activists. Not activists. Not activists. Now, if they want to become activists after they graduate or if they drop out, cool. Do what you want to do when you're no longer a student of this college. But colleges need to be called out on this. Straight up and down. Because guess what? None of the things that we want to be done in order to fix American society is going to work until you fix that. Until you fix the radicalization of college students, you're not going to be able to fix nothing. College students shouldn't be allowed to have meetings where they're referring to each other as comrade. College students shouldn't be in an environment where the most read text is the Communist Manifesto. That shit needs to be nipped in the bud. Why do we have to be the only country that allows our enemies to feed hateful rhetoric and anti-American ideology to the students in our institutions of higher learning under the guise of freedom? Why? Why? I am so sick and tired of people that come from other countries or people within this country that want to use the concept of America's freedom to openly oppose and work against American values while they are in America. This is the reason why, look, this is the reason why whenever they take the oath of office, whether they're in, regardless of where they're at, what's one of the things they always say? They vow to what? Defend this country against enemies, both foreign and domestic. Do they just forget about that? Do they just forget about that? Or is it they refuse to define what a foreign enemy or a domestic enemy is? See, I got news for the Democrats. A domestic enemy is not somebody that disagrees with Democrat policies. A domestic enemy is not somebody that disagrees with leftist ideology. A domestic enemy of America is people who live inside of America and constantly preach anti-American rhetoric. You know, people that burn the flag, people that want to transform this country into a communist country, shit like that. Let me show you something I came across. Watch this right here.
But what's so hard about just saying that Biden won the 2020 election? What's hard about that?
Senator, as I've said before, that President Biden was certified and sworn in, and he was the president. I don't know how else to say it.
Well, the other way to say it is he won.
He was the president.
The other way to say it is he won. I can say Trump won. I didn't vote for him. But he won. You understand what I'm asking you. Can you say the words, Joe Biden won the 2020 election?
Joe Biden was the president of the United States.
You understand this? There's a difference. I can say the words, Donald Trump won. I don't like to say it, but I must say it. And you cannot say that Joe Biden won the election.
What I can say is the same for both of them, Senator. Both of their elections were certified, and they are both, one was and one now is president.
Okay. But what's so hard?
You notice they all keep doing that? Do you notice they all keep doing that? Now, I don't know how many of you are movie buffs, but I'm a movie buff. And that right there always happens in certain types of movies. It always happens in certain types of movies, in certain types of shows. Do you remember when King Robert Baratheon in Game of Thrones passed away? And he wanted Ned Stark to basically run the kingdom until his heir came of age, right? By the time he gets to the throne room, Cersei Lannister already has Joffrey sitting on the throne. Now, there was already questions about the lineage. But in situations like that, you know the first thing they do? They request that everybody bend the knee. And if you don't bend the knee, you get punished. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I need to understand the relevance of making Kash Patel say that when Joe Biden has been president and is no longer in office. Right? Now, I wanted to know if there was a term for this. And I looked it up. And the term that came up was coerced allegiance. Coerced allegiance. Coerced allegiance refers to the practice of forcing individuals to pledge loyalty or support to a person, group, or ideology against their will. This concept is often associated with authoritarian regimes, cults, and other organizations that seek to control their members through intimidation and manipulation. Coerced allegiance can be implemented through various means: threats and intimidation using fear of punishment or negative consequences to compel compliance. 2, economic pressure, restricting access to resources or opportunities unless allegiance is pledged. Social ostracism, isolating individuals who refuse to comply. Psychological manipulation, using emotional tactics and to pressure individuals into conformity. Context of coerced allegiance. Coerced allegiance can occur in different settings: political, authoritarian governments forcing citizens to publicly support the regime; religious, cults or extremist groups demanding unquestioning loyalty from followers; educational, schools mandating participation in patriotic rituals like, whatever that particular country's credo is, its allegiance, whatever, right? Military, rebel groups using force to recruit and retain members. Psychological impact. Coerced allegiance can have significant psychological effects on individuals. Cognitive dissonance. The conflict between personal beliefs and forced actions can cause mental distress. Loss of autonomy. Individuals may feel a diminished sense of personal freedom and self-determination. resentment. Forced compliance often breeds hostility towards the coercing entity. Now, legal and ethical considerations. Many democratic societies have legal protections against coerced allegiance. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that forcing students to recite the Pledge of Allegiance violates First Amendment rights. That's correct. International human rights laws protect freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, right? So here's my question. Why do you have senators in Congress trying to force Pete Buttigieg, or how you pronounce his name, Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, and anybody else that's with Donald Trump to say, can you say in the 2020 election that Joe Biden, like, why are they acting like Joe Biden was a king? Do you realize when that senator was trying to force Kash Patel to say that, do you realize he was violating his rights? Guess what? If lefties walk around right now saying Donald Trump ain't my president, guess how many conservatives give a shit? None. We don't give a shit. You know why we don't give a shit? Because the reality is he's president. We don't give a shit. We don't care if you think he's not president, doesn't deserve to be president. We don't care about that. Because he's president. He was confirmed. So why are they pressing this matter so hard when Joe Biden was confirmed and was sitting president for 4 years? Because I'm going to tell you the truth. Whenever somebody goes this hard in the paint about anything, the first thing that pops up into my mind is, who are you trying to convince, me or you? Why is this such an issue? And why aren't you asking these people questions that pertain to the job that they're getting ready to do? Why are you asking them questions about some shit that happened in 2020 that at this moment is of no consequence, or at least should be of no consequence? Or what do to all of the individuals that have ever been arrested by the police and questioned by the police, what do the police always say to you? You ain't did nothing wrong. So somebody finish the sentence for me. What do the police say to you? If you haven't done anything wrong, you have nothing to worry about. So to all of the lefties, all of the Democrats, Bernie Sanders, all of these different individuals, if everything you're doing is on the up and up, and you're not violating the Constitution or your oath of office, why are you so worried about Trump's team? Because guess what? If this was a game of chess, you're in check right now. But the only problem is you don't have any moves. You ever play chess with somebody and you check them and they only got those two moves that can bring them out of check, and then you immediately put them back in check, and they can just do that shit all day? They just go from that one spot to the other spot, because you know what I'm saying? You got them. There's nowhere they can go. They just got them two spots that they can go. And they don't have the damn decency to tip that king over. That's the Democrats right now. They've lost. They have lost, and they refuse to accept it. They have nowhere to go. Because guess what? Here's the problem with this whole scenario of what y'all are doing with these confirmation hearings. This is where the problem is. The problem is you got two scenarios, which is the two moves I'm talking about. Right? The one move is you want Trump's team to give you assurances that they're not going to go after people from the Biden administration. And you're saying that they'll have the power to if they get confirmed. That's being said without saying it. You're worried because you've said it. You've actually said it a couple of times. You've actually said that you're worried about Trump and his team going after their political opponents or getting retribution, which means they would go after the Biden team. By saying that, you have put yourself in that space on the chessboard where you only got the two moves. And either move eventually leads to you losing. Why is that? Because either one of two things is happening. Either you are admitting that when Trump's team get in place, they'll be able to go after the Biden administration because they did something wrong. They did something that was outside of the scope. Now, they're not admitting that, but that's what it looks like. Okay? That's what the American people are thinking. Why are you so worried about Trump's team unless you did something wrong? That's one space on the board. The other space on the board is, well, we didn't do anything wrong, but we know once they get in power, they're still going to come after us. And in that case, you're admitting that the Justice Department has the ability to engage in lawfare, which is kind of admitting that you did it. Do y'all see what I'm saying? Either the Justice Department is fair and balanced, or it's not. If it's fair and balanced, you shouldn't have to worry about anything if you haven't done anything wrong. If you know you haven't done anything wrong and you're still worried about it, that's admitting that the Justice Department is not fair and balanced. It is a lose-lose situation. And you know what it is? I'm going to tell you what it is, Democrats. This is the personification of, oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. It's the personification of it. It's the personification of painting yourself into a corner. All this is the chickens coming home to roost. This is you maneuvering so much in a way you shouldn't have been maneuvering until now you have no moves left. And make no mistake about it, you put yourselves in this situation. You put yourselves in this situation. This is that moment where you just gotta bow out gracefully and let the cards fall where they may. This is that moment where you gotta charge it to the game. Or as Omar would say, it's all in the game. This is the proverbial end of your rope. This is the proverbial hoisted by your own petard. Like, I could go on for days. This is inevitable. And the reason why it's inevitable is because regardless of what any of you folks want to think, the founding fathers of this country were geniuses. The way they set this country up was genius. Now, was it perfect? No, it wasn't perfect. Of course, you have that nasty stain of slavery. So it wasn't perfect. But the way they set it up was genius. Because they set it up in a way where eventually the republic would be held accountable by the people. That's the way they set it up. And that is what you're witnessing right now. You're witnessing the public, the American people, holding the powers that be accountable. And you're witnessing them scramble like rats on a sinking ship. And it's really sad to see. And the funniest thing about it is the liberals who are the lefties and the liberals who are just American citizens and not in government, some of them aren't even bright enough to see what's going on. They don't even see it. They don't even see it. They don't even see it. I see it. I see what's going on. Because regardless of what you believe, you feel me? Because I don't know what Congress did or didn't do. You feel me? That's above my pay grade, right? But as a logical thinking man, I can sit back and look at the situation and I can say, the two things that need to be true for the Democrats to be okay is this. One, they have to be telling the truth that they didn't do anything wrong. And two, they have to be telling the truth that the DOJ is not corrupt. Those two things have to be true for the Democrats to come out unscathed. But if either one of those things is not true, They up shit creek. And here's the interesting thing about it. If one of those things is not true, then both of them ain't true. I'm going to say that again. If one of those things is not true, then both of them ain't true. Why? Because they are oversight. They're oversight. They're supposed to make sure that the DOJ is on the up and up. Which means even if they didn't do anything wrong and the DOJ was corrupt, they did something wrong by not fixing the DOJ. So even if you didn't do anything wrong and we find out the DOJ is doing some stuff it wasn't supposed to do, you still did something wrong because you sat back while they were doing stuff they wasn't supposed to do. Oh my God. I don't think I've ever seen an example like this in history. This is the literal example of the end of your rope, like running out of road. Unknown Soldier said, and the Republicans is so righteous. Did I say that? Did I say that, Unknown Soldier? Did you hear me say that? So let me make sure I understand this, Unknown Soldier. So if the Republicans are dirty and corrupt, I guess what you're saying is that justifies the Democrats being dirty and corrupt. Last time I checked, wasn't it the Democrats that were the party of the moral high standard? See, we don't have to talk about the Republicans being corrupt because the Republicans have always been assumed to be corrupt. It was always the Democrats that were supposed to be the tolerant party. They were supposed to be the ones of, high morality, right? You tell me what is worse. When someone who is expected to be corrupt does something good, or when someone who is expected to be righteous does something bad. Which one is worse? Which one is worse? Unknown Soldier. Which one is worse? When someone who is expected to be corrupt does something good, or when someone is expected to be righteous does something bad, which one is worse? And by the way, the argument that y'all try to make you know, they're both they're the wings of the same dirty bird. That argument that y'all love to make. The whole, well, the Republicans is corrupt too. There's only one problem with your argument. The problem with your argument is Donald Trump's Republican Party is a new Republican Party. Donald Trump's Republican Party is not the party of George W. Bush and Cheney. Donald Trump's Republican Party is not the party of George Bush Sr. and everything that came with that. It's not the party of Reagan. It's not the party of Nixon. For a very long time, the Republican Party has always been a representation of the elites. Donald Trump's Republican Party is the representation of the working man. Donald Trump's Republican Party, the MAGA movement, is a populist movement. It is drastically different than the grand old party of old. So I'm sorry, your argument is incorrect. I can sit back and I can look at Trump and his nominees, and based on actions, I can tell what their intentions are. I can tell what Donald Trump's intentions are. I can tell what RFK's intentions are. I can tell what Tulsi Gabbard's intentions are. I can tell what Kash Patel's intentions are. I can tell what Pete Hegseth's intentions are. I can tell what Marco Rubio's intentions are. And here's the other thing. Here's the other thing, right? One reason why I know what we're getting with Trump's team is because the raggedy, corrupt, trifling individuals that's already in government that have ran this country into the damn ground don't like them. You know what that lets me know? When someone that's bad doesn't like someone else, it usually means the people they don't like are good. That's what it usually means. But this is what I try my best to figure out. This is one of the things that boggles my mind. And I said it to my wife last night. Trump fires a bunch of government bureaucrats. He gives a bunch of them the option to resign with 8 months' pay. American people are mad about it. RFK wants to hold the pharmaceutical companies accountable and wants to get our food down in ingredients that are harmful to us the same way it is for other countries. And the American citizens are mad about it. Donald Trump wants to hold the government accountable for its spending that has gotten out of control. And American citizens are upset about it. What I want to understand from you lefties, you progressives, you Democrats that have a problem with everything that Donald Trump is doing, why do you have a problem with what he's doing when you're the main individuals that have constantly complained about government overreach, that have constantly complained about government spending, that have constantly complained about every damn thing Donald Trump is trying to fix. You know what it proves to me? It proves to me that there is no tool in this world more powerful than the media. Because the media has filled your brains with so much bullshit that you don't know your ass from your elbow. You don't know whether you coming or going. Before Trump got in office, you couldn't stand how big the government was. Now you got a problem with him making it smaller. Before Trump got in office, you was mad about high taxes. Now that Trump's trying to do something about it, you got a problem with it. Before Trump got in office, you had an issue with the federal government's bureaucracy. It's just like when Trump allegedly was convicted with 34 felonies. Before that, you hated the judicial system. You said it was one of the most corrupt systems in the world. Especially you black folk. You black folk couldn't stand the government as it stood. And now that Trump is trying to fix the government, you're going hard in the paint to defend the government. It's the weirdest shit I've ever seen in my life. It's making me really start to question a lot of the American citizens that are on the left that are Democrats. I'm starting to think you might be the R word. Is that what's going on? Or you just are tardy? Is that what's going on? Or has the society made you hate Trump so damn bad that it wouldn't matter if he walked up to your house and handed you 8 gold bars, you would still figure out some kind of way to be mad about it? These bars is heavy. What am I supposed to do with gold bars? Why would he give me gold bars? There's literally nothing that man can do that you're going to approve of. Nothing. Not because there's something wrong with him, but because there's something wrong with you. And you know what's funny to me? This is something I noticed lately. The defectors, the people that were on the left that know they can't continue hating Trump in media because they're going to get backlash because 77 million people in this country voted for Trump. So you got the defectors like Stephen A. Smith. And he sits up there and this is what he says. He's posturing. This is what he says. He's like, the problem is the left went so far left that now the American public is willing to vote for a man, you know, who's flawed. Flawed based on whose standards, nigga. Every time I hear somebody say that, every time somebody brings up Donald Trump, the first thing they want to say is, I'm not saying the man is perfect. He's definitely flawed. Flawed based on whose standard, you piece of shit? That man is no more flawed than you are, nigga. Who are you talking about? Because I don't have a problem with the man. I don't have no problem whatsoever with that man. I've been trying my best to figure out what's wrong with that man that y'all have so much of a problem with. That you didn't have with Joe Biden. that you didn't have with Barack Obama, that you didn't have with George Bush Jr., that you didn't have with George Bush Sr., that you didn't have with Bill Clinton. George Bush Sr. sent us into a war that many soldiers that went into that war said they were never supposed to be there. Desert Storm. Bill Clinton signed the 94 crime bill that caused our country to end up in a state of mass incarceration. And he got a blowjob in the freaking Oval Office. Don't even get me started on how incompetent George Bush Jr. was. The amount of money Barack Obama spent should be criminal. And Joe Biden, oh my God, someone who should have never been allowed to even get that close to the Oval Office. Sleep behind the wheel. But you niggas ain't got nothing negative to say about them. But Trump is flawed. Oh, this is a person that's tremendously flawed. Based on what? What other people tell you? And then you got some dude in the press secretary in the press room asking her because Trump said bullshit. And the dude in the press in the press room asking, I have a question about the president using profanity. Was it a moment of frustration, or does he think that's an effective tool, or is he? I would have kicked him out of the damn press room. I would have kicked his ass out of the press room. I would have said, excuse me, security, take his microphone and usher him out. That is a grown-ass man, and he's the president of the United States. He can say whatever the fuck he want to say. It is insulting ass in that press room and critique the president like he's a child. But that's what they do. And they try to say it in a slick way to try to make it seem like they're not being disrespectful. They sit right in that press room and ask questions that are disrespectful to the office of the presidency. Let me tell you something. I don't care if the president curses. I would rather have a president that curses and actually get shit done than a president like Barack Obama or Joe Biden who gets up there all studious and shit, says all the right things with Obama, not Joe Biden, but says all of the right things, is super polite, but doesn't do a damn thing. And I think that's really what it is. I think y'all are so used to polished politicians that stand there and tell you pretty lies and don't deliver on shit that now that you got a president that tells it like it is but does deliver, you don't like it because it doesn't look like that other bullshit. You're so used to the criminals and grifters and corrupt individuals that when you see somebody that's authentic, you think they're the problem. With your backwards ass. So I'm going to tell you what it really is. This is what happened. Back in the day, in the beginning of this country, the founding of this country, we had presidents that were hardcore, that were men, that were masculine. Somewhere in the, I want to say the 60s and the 70s, we started getting presidents that were nerds. After we got the presidents that were nerds, then we started getting the presidents that were basically weirdos. Now, America's tired of the weirdo presidents. They're tired of the nerd presidents. America wants back the manly presidents. They want the presidents that are masculine, the ones that talk shit and back it up. We are sick of the soy boys. We're sick of the lefties. We're sick of the progressives. We want our country to be ran by men. I wonder if I saved that video with that freaking soy boy reporter asking that goofy ass question. Watch this shit. Watch it. Pay attention. Tell me if you agree this is disrespectful.
Thank you very much, guys.
On the president's use of language in this room yesterday,
Sure.
and without seeking to cast myself as some kind of moral exemplar because it's rather late in the day to try, nonetheless, this was an event yesterday that began with a moment of silence for the victims of the air crash and the president's own invocation of, quote, a loving God. And then he uncorked that expletive to insult a former cabinet officer. It was the same expletive that I saw him use in the East Room in 2020 when he famously held up the Trump acquitted headline. My question is, if you could shed any light for us on how the president perceives his use of public profanity, which is a practice that certainly sets him apart from all of his predecessors. Does he regard it as an effective communications device, part of his appeal, or is it something that he lapses into inadvertently, perhaps in times of frustration and later regrets?
I think one of the
Now, did you see how that sanctimonious, self-righteous prick set his ass in there and tried his best to drag out and try to make seem intelligent something he could have said in a couple of words, which is, why was the president cursing? That's all he had to say. All he had to say was, why was the president cursing? I don't like it. In fact, I'm going to show you what the president said, because I think I saved that too. I think this is it right here.
We don't even yet know the names of the 67 people who were killed, and you are blaming Democrats and DEI policies and air traffic control and seemingly
with this crash. Because, okay, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't.
We don't even yet know the names of the 67 people.
Smart question.
Are you saying this somehow is the hiring, and what evidence have you seen to support these claims?
It just could have been.
I'm trying to figure out.
Hold on, let me find it. Let me find it real quick.
Which is overseen by Secretary Pete Buttigieg. A real winner. That guy's a real winner. Do you know how badly everything's run since he's run the Department of Transportation? He's a disaster. He was a disaster as a mayor. He ran his city into the ground, and he's a disaster now. He's just got a good line of bullshit. The Department of Transportation.
That's what he said. That's what he said. And I'm going to tell you some real shit. If Joe Biden had did that, they would be praising him for it. They'd be saying things like, well, you know, I think the president went out there and, you know, he proved to everybody that he's not messing around. You know, it's been a while since we've had a president that was this stern. Like, if it had been Biden that said this, they would have worshiped it. If it had been anybody other than Trump, and I don't know about y'all, I don't know about the rest of the 77 million people that voted for Trump. I am so goddamn sick and fucking tired of everything Trump does. They have a problem with it. I'm sick of this shit, man. I'm sick of it. He said the dude has a line of bullshit. Who cares if Trump said that? He's a grown-ass man. Yo, no one is ever, no one, I don't care who you are, no one is ever going to make me dislike that man. No one. I don't care who you are. Every time he talks, every time he does anything, the first thing I think in my head is, he may be a boomer, but he has Gen X energy. The shit you see with all of these confirmation hearings. The way Kash Patel is up there cooking their ass. The way RFK is up there cooking their ass. The way Tulsi cooking their ass. The way Pam Bondi cooking their ass. That shit is Gen X energy. We've been waiting for Gen X energy in this government for a long time. I've been saying it. Y'all have seen me say it. I said the reason why the country is where it's at is because of them damn boomers. I said they trying their best to skip over Gen X. See, the boomers were trying their best to hand this shit to the millennials and Gen Z, because them niggas is just as soft as the damn boomers. Just as incompetent as the boomers. They didn't want no Gen X energy in the government because they know we fix this shit. And Gen X don't have none of that goofy energy. We don't play that participation trophy shit. We're not going to put you in a position just because you're this color or you're that gender or you belong to the Skittle Squad. We're not doing all of that. We come from the generation of when you get ready to play a sport, we're picking you because you're good. We're not picking you because we feel sorry for you. What about little Timmy? Y'all never pick him to play basketball because he sucks. Now, if he want to get picked, take your ass over there and practice. But we're not picking you to be on our team if you suck. And guess what? It didn't have nothing to do with little Timmy being black, white, Latino, none of that. If you got game, you got game. Because guess what else we didn't do as Gen Xers? We don't do that racism shit. If you're good, you're good. If you can rap, we don't care if you white or black. We don't care what color you are. If you can spit bars, you can spit bars. If you sing, play the guitar, play basketball, football, we don't care what color you are as long as you're good at it. If you're good at it, we're going to give you props. If you suck at it, we're going to clown you. And that's why when you look at his picks, he didn't pick a bunch of white people. He picked Latino. He picked Indian. He picked Samoan. He picked Irish. He picked black. He picked every color in the spectrum. And I'm going to tell you something right now. For you black folks, if you want to sit here and say Trump ain't never hired no black people, ain't never picked no black people, your ass is crazy. You crazy. Let me tell you something about Trump. Matter of fact, hit the Cash App and support the show. We barely got any support on the Cash App side of the game. We need a sponsor is what we need. We need a sponsor. Somebody sponsor the show, man. Anybody that drops 100 or more on the Cash App side of the game will be a sponsor of the show. Let me tell you something about Trump. Trump, in fact, let me find the video. I'm going to just find the video and play it for you guys.
The faces of Barack Obama, major officials in the government wearing dresses or of what we are donated. We're going to be controlled for war. MAGA. But so when he says, well, we're going to call it the Gulf of America, colony, and if you look at those speeches about the third sentence, you get the impression that even some of the opponents would like Britain to reason Section 104 countries, and they're there for one reason.
So Victor Davis Hanson, who is a historian, had some words to say about Trump. Let me see if I can find it.
and defense and an open border as Mexico.
Because I think one of...
In actual power, his power right now, his mandate is emotional and psychological and spiritual. All of his issues, same thing, he only has 3 in the Senate when with Jay. We spent too much money. Lindsey Graham.
Mentioned Fauci there.
So they can't say, I cannot testify to get to up his China. We'll call Milley in, or Washington. They're using the judicial
progressive on a moral high ground.
Background checks on Serranos, people displaced, the vast majority of them. And you can see that these are constituencies, gang members from Central America would destroy their inner.
The CNN.
Can't say that anymore. The courts now, of a rapist, that's going to be
Republicans.
The short times guard said he just vote for you. And the same thing to another group of caddies, Cuban American, the electricians. We have things in common. We all like and on the one hand, a button-down tie, that plays to his advantage. That dresses or looks, or Reagan, he's old, but changes so you can afford a house and your generation can have a better America. JFK's appeal was
dead, or Gen Z is
we're not going to see
people. Extraordinary things. I know.
All right, so this is him explaining something about Trump. I want y'all to listen to this. And he's written books on Trump. He's written books on Trump, okay? And he's look, Victor Davis Hanson is by far one of the most intelligent dudes I have ever heard speak about history or politics. Like, he's phenomenal, okay? So let's play this little snippet, and I want y'all to hear what he has to say. And his assessments about politics are usually spot on.
That's going to be actionable. And so I just think that we're not going to see as much of that anymore because people are going to sue them, and they're winning. They're winning, and they're going to win big. And I think there'll be repercussions on this salute that CNN. I think he'll sue them.
One of the other most extraordinary things I noticed at the inauguration yesterday was that you had people like Theo Von and Jake Paul and these kind of podcast bro type people literally at the ceremony. And Trump, not only did he win over minority voters that you've talked about, Latino voters and so on, but he also won Gen Z, or Gen Z as Americans call them, young voters, particularly young men. He went on Joe Rogan, and that just went incredibly viral. And, there's a huge upsurge of support among young men for Trump and for the Republicans. Does this remind you of any other president? I don't know, did Reagan have this same kind of influence on young people at the time? Is this different to that? Is this a new phenomenon? What's going on with Trump and his young support?
Well, 3 presidents had that ability, at least initially. Reagan did, and his argument was that I'm going to make changes so you can afford a house and your generation can have a better America. JFK's appeal was I'm young like you, and we're going to take over from 75-year-old Eisenhower in the 50s stasis. Obama had that with the left, that I am cool and hip. Bill Clinton tried with the sunglasses. So they all try it, and some of them are more effective. But what's different about Trump is that, like Reagan, he's old, but he has no prerequisites. He has no hierarchies. He has no protocol. So when he was in New York, I used to read stories about why people hated him, because he hung around with Mike Tyson. He hung around with Al Sharpton. He hung around with boxing promoters, King, who was completely disreputable. And when he surrounds himself by Steve Bannon, the way Steve Bannon dresses or looks, or he has no problems with having Fetterman come with his shorts. In other words, it gets him in trouble sometimes, but his attitude is he judges people on what their usefulness is and their ability is. And I think he got that from being a builder. And he got a lot of empathy for people who are not in the, and he's an outsider too. I mean, with the mugshot, you talk to people in Manhattan and you ask them, before Trump was president, was he on the A, B, or C list? And they will tell you the D list. They didn't want to go to dinner with him because he had declared bankruptcies, or he'd been married 3 times, or the way he looked was. And that,
in other words, he's not even really elite. He's not even part of the elite. And that's a mistake that I made. I said, well, maybe y'all are mistaken racism. Maybe y'all are mistaken elitism for racism. But he's not even an elitist.
That plays to his advantage, that he does not judge people by the way that traditional Republicans do. If you come and talk to Trump, he's impressed by Harvard, Yale, and all that, but he's not exclusionary. So he will bring people around him of any background if he finds out they have talent, and that makes him accessible. So when you saw him go into Madison Square Garden right after, I have never seen right before the election a menagerie like that. I mean, he had on the one hand a button-down tie Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House. Then he had apostate RFK and Tulsi Gabbard. Then he had Hulk Hogan. Then he had Kid Rock. Then he had Joe Rogan. Then he had Dana White. Mixed martial arts. They were all there. And they were all getting along with each other. And they all had one thing in common. Nobody cares what we dress like. Nobody cares what we say. Nobody cares where we went to school. But we're all successful. And we have things in common. We all like
In other words, he is the first American president we've had in a long time.
Country, and Trump knows that. And it's, I don't think that people ever saw that side of him. I'll give you an anecdote. When I was writing the first book, I talked to a lot of people, and I talked to a very important financier in New York, and he said he could see sometimes out his window one of Trump's buildings, and no one knew that Trump was being watched. He didn't know, but he would get out of his car and go shake hands with the cement person, the electricians. There was no advantage other than as a businessman you want to, but he felt comfortable with him. Another person I asked him about who played golf with him, and he said, yes, he bets on all the time, and sometimes he, quote unquote, forgets his wallet when the bet is due. But he said, before I got angry, it wasn't very long at all after I had played with him, and we were betting on holes, and he wouldn't pay up. He would walk over to another group of caddies, Cuban Americans, and he'd come back, and he wouldn't say anything. And then he got curious, and so after Trump left, he went over there, and he said he went over and gave us cash to send for our funeral for a family member to be buried.
So when he was writing a book about Trump and was doing research on Trump, he said there was a financier that lived in a building that was across from Trump's building. And he said he would see Trump. He said Trump would get out and he would go and he would shake hands with all of the workers, the cement guy, the electrician, whoever. Trump doesn't know somebody's watching him do this. This is just his regular life. He's playing golf on the freaking, on the golf course. He goes over to some Cuban American caddies. You know what a caddy is. I guess in conversation, he finds out one of their relatives passed away or something. He gives them money to send home so that they can bury the relative. What benefit does he get from that? There is no benefit from that. It's just a person who's a kind person.
And he said the same thing. Another person said, we went into Mar-a-Lago to eat, and all of a sudden he disappeared in the kitchen. So we didn't know what was going on. And then we found out he went into the kitchen and said, we closed the restaurant, so I have my friends over, and here's $200 for each of you, and lost tips in cash. So
in Mar-a-Lago, he closed off the restaurant to the public because he wanted to have dinner with his friends. So he goes in the kitchen and he gives them all of the money they would have made in tips. You know what I think is going to happen one day? I think Trump is one of those presidents that's not going to be appreciated until he's gone. I think there's going to be a lot of people, when they really find out who this man is, there's going to be a lot of people that's going to look like complete assholes. I've heard so many stories about Trump engaging in acts of kindness that he didn't have to do. Like, I've heard so many freaking. I've heard Mike Tyson talk about how he'd go to Trump Tower and Trump would give him and his friends free stays at his freaking hotel and shit like that. I heard one time he was in his limousine and they got a flat tire, and a guy, a guy that was just happened to be a black guy, stopped to help them with the tire, right? And Trump said, well, give me your address because I want to send you something because I appreciate the help or whatever, right? Because I want to send you something, right? The guy, I think like a week later, he got in Trump sent him some flowers for helping him. And there was a card in the flowers. And when he opened the card, he said, hey, I really appreciate you helping me. By the way, I paid your mortgage off. Shit like that. But you'll sit back and listen to these assholes on TV that in many cases haven't done shit for anybody. In many cases, will be driving down the street and see a homeless person and will roll up their window and lock the door. We're talking about a man of the people. In fact, watch this.
The guy's here to fix the leak on your solid gold faucet.
Send him in.
This place looks like the Liberace Museum.
Well, this is all very classy stuff. And that painting of the tiger and the woman has got me laid on numerous occasions.
I didn't know gay dudes liked tiger paintings.
Hey, you've crossed the line. I've killed people for less.
Looks like you killed a squirrel to me and put it right on top of your head.
You're one to talk. Your hair looks exactly like mine.
Yeah, except my hair's supposed to look like this. I'm a janitor.
The man will even make fun of himself. The man will even make fun of himself. He'll even make fun of himself, bro. Yo, shout out to Jerome. He said, I would argue R&B died when there wasn't any groups left. Shout out to William. Shout out to Something About Beauty. Shout out to A.R. Smitty. He said Brandon T. Jackson has brought shame upon the Motor City. Shout out to Dwayne. He said Cook AM. Shout out to Black Martian. He said you got the juice now. Shout out to Paul. Shout out to Calvin. Shout out to Paul. He said support AM, shaking my head on the flip-flop. I'm a LA man, American, locked and set.
$50 boss up. Stack up and match up.
Shout out to Jerome. He said they need to revamp how they do college as a whole anyway. Yep. Shout out to Tall. He said that's exactly like Star Trek Picard. How many light are there? 4 or 5? Shout out to Christopher. Shout out to Jose. He said thanks. Shout out to Siobhan. Said Trump is making masculinity great again. Shout out to the lowly one. Said who was the commander-in-chief who called that reporter dude a stupid SOB a few years back? Shout out to Rob. Shout out to D-Prez. Shout out to Loso. Shout out to Lisa M. Said just because, my friend, appreciate you. Let's see. Shout out to Kendra. Said paying tuition. Oh, I already read that one. Let's see. Shout out to Regina. Says supporting the show. Some of us are still solid, no doubt. Shout out to Omar. He said just made some bread earlier, AM. What's good, bro? Trust. Let's see. Shout out to Mogul Maze. Shout out to Big Mike. He said blacks rebellion against authority usual. Shout out to Lamaris. Shout out to INP. He says salute AM, the light-skinned God. You're straight cook and preach. Shout out to Dion. He said helping our country. Shout out to Vincent. And shout out to James. He said, born in 1982. Don't forget us, AM Cook. Appreciate y'all. Yo, if you just coming in here, hit the Cash App and support the show. We definitely need a sponsor. We definitely need some sponsors. You feel me? What did this Negro say? He got deleted for some reason. But I don't even know. I don't even know what to say. Oh yeah, by the way, I don't know if y'all know who James Charles is. But the fact that he would go on TikTok and make fun, I can't even pull the video up because he took the video down immediately because he got so much backlash. But he basically sat up there and made fun of RFK Jr.'s voice. And basically said in a very misinformed way that he said, how many packs of cigarettes has he smoked a day? And he's supposed to be in charge of the Department of Health? He was like, what's wrong with your voice? Now, the funny thing to me, and I got to say this to you, James Charles, what's wrong with your voice? Because your voice is not the typical dude's voice, and we know why. But see, I'd be wrong if I said that, right? Don't y'all find it interesting in this country that it's cool for James Charles to make fun of a man's medical condition, but we can't make fun of James Charles being part of the Skittle Squad? Don't y'all find that strange? In fact, I'll take it a step further. They have been off limits for so long when it comes to being made fun of, when it comes to them playing the victim card, that they have now become one of the most hateful, intolerant groups of people in this country. Have y'all noticed that? Have y'all noticed that? Have y'all noticed that that particular group of people are always crying about somebody mistreating them, but all they ever seem to do is mistreat other people? All they ever seem to do is talk crazy about other people. And you know what's so funny? What's so funny about the whole thing is they love to claim they're oppressed. When were they slaves? What point in history were they slaves? What point in history was that group the victim of genocide? I just find that really interesting. I just find that really, really interesting. But that's not the main topic that I want to talk about. The main topic that I want to talk about is the sequel to yesterday's show. I had such a good time calling out the hypocrisy of black lefties, black progressives, black Democrats, that I just feel the need to do it again. I played the clip of what Kanye said, which was bars, when Big Boy asked him, what do you have to say to people that say you rejected the culture? He said, absolutely. I reject the culture of victimhood. I also played Pastor or Apostle Tommy E. Quick, who basically said, you know, some people will give you an excuse to fail. And the reason why I played him preaching that sermon is because isn't that what and you know what's crazy? I didn't see that video until today. Now, those of you that watched the show yesterday, watch this.
How long have we been told that the problem with black America is that we used to be slaves? Now, if I
who had just got set free from slavery. I could maybe have to listen to that, but I've never been a slave. And I can't believe for one moment that my attitudes and my behavior is more contingent upon something happened 300 years ago, 100 years, 150 years, than it is what I decided to do in my own power. Sometimes in our assessment, people will give you an excuse to fail.
Now, isn't that what I was saying yesterday? Is that or is that not what I was saying yesterday? In fact, that's what I was saying yesterday when that ignorant, knuckle-dragging, broke-ass ninja came up in here and told me I'm drinking the orange Kool-Aid. I guess that was meant to be some kind of metaphor for me being on the Trump train. But here's the problem with that. The only way that that's an insult is if I believed all of the bullshit that the legacy media convinced you to believe about Donald Trump. That's the only way that that's an insult. It doesn't bother me that you think I'm on the Trump train. You don't have to make little, comments or little innuendos and all of that. You don't got to do that. You don't got to say, oh, you drinking orange Kool-Aid. All you have to do is ask me, are you a Trump supporter? And I'm going to be like, yes. Yes. See, right now, we are in the middle of an existential crisis. I think that's the proper term to use. What do y'all think? Do y'all think we are in the middle of an existential crisis? In fact, let me make sure that I'm using that word properly. An existential crisis is a period of deep questioning about the meaning of life, purpose, and identity. Yes, our country is in the middle of an existential crisis. But it's kind of hard to focus on fixing that existential crisis when we have so many other challenges that are going on right now. One in particular is the financial challenge that we're in. Now, over the past 4 years, the American public, not the 77 million that voted for Trump, but all of the American public, has been complaining about the cost of living, the rising, ridiculously high cost of living, right? Everyone is complaining about inflation. They're complaining about the cost of housing. They're complaining about the cost of groceries. They're complaining about pretty much the cost of everything. They're also saying, minimum wage hasn't been raised in I don't know how long. When was the last time they raised minimum wage? The problem is we don't have a living wage. The wages have not kept pace with the rising cost of living. Everyone keeps complaining about that. And then everyone says Trump isn't going to be able to fix it. How is he going to be able to fix it? Whenever prices go up, they don't go back down. How is he going to fix it? Do you realize that if Trump uses Doge to figure out where the wasteful spending is going and cut that, that's less taxes that you have to pay. If Donald Trump succeeds in trimming the fat, scaling down the government from the behemoth, the bloated behemoth that it has become, that will cut back on the wasteful spending. But here's where the genius is, and nobody's paying any attention to this. Nobody's thinking about this. If Donald Trump successfully implements his tariff program and uses the tariff program to replace income tax, that will give everyone in this country a raise. And guess what? That would fix the problem. In fact, if he implemented the external revenue service through tariffs and got rid of the federal income tax, it would fix two problems, especially if he scaled back the government. One, it would give the American people a raise. Two, it would bring down the deficit, because the money coming in from the tariffs would help pay down the debt, and the debt would not continue to rise when you cut all of the useless government spending. So yes, Donald Trump has the potential to fix the problem that we're facing right now. And you know what? I think that very thing terrifies the people that hate Donald Trump. Because considering everything he's doing right now, because as soon as he got in office, he hit the ground running, and he hasn't stopped yet. If he's able to do that, he will most certainly be the undisputed greatest president of our lifetimes. You realize that? He will be the greatest president of our lifetime. And all of the people that talk crazy about him, I think that is the one thing they are terrified of. I think that's the one thing they're terrified of. Because you know what? He will have fixed a problem that should have been fixed a long time ago. Because here's what people don't realize about the income tax, right? The income tax was supposed to be temporary. Y'all know that? Do y'all know that? Income tax was supposed to be temporary. If I remember correctly, they implemented it because they were trying to raise money for the First World War, if I'm not mistaken. But now it has turned into this system where these bureaucrats act like you owe them something. They act like they are entitled to your hard-earned money. When you really sit back and think about it, do you have any idea how ridiculous that is? Especially considering that at one point, the United States Supreme Court deemed it as unconstitutional. But this is what really makes it worse. And this is the kicker. This is the kicker, right? The first thing that you need to realize is, as an American, federal income tax, sales tax, property tax, every way that we're taxed. You have people out here that say, you know what the biggest drainer of wealth is? It's your car payment. No, the hell it's not. What's prohibiting you from generating generational wealth is the way that we are being taxed. It's the way that we are being taxed. Now, the kicker that I was about to mention that takes the cake is that the entire American Revolution was over a 3% tax. Do y'all know that? Do y'all know that the founding fathers separated from Britain, started a revolution, and went to war because they didn't want to pay a 3% tax? Justin McCauley said, you obviously don't know how tariffs work. How do they work, Justin? How do they work? How do they work? Do y'all notice ever since Donald Trump started saying something about tariffs, now all of a sudden people jump out there and say tariffs are bad. You don't know how they work. Explain to me how they work. Explain to me how they work, since I don't know how they work. Explain to me how they work. Go ahead and explain to me how they work. Justin? Go ahead and explain to me how they work. Do not hide him. I want him to explain to me how they work. Explain to me how they work, Justin. Come on, Justin. Go ahead and repeat some dumb shit you heard from the legacy media. Be my guest. I'm waiting. Come on, Justin. Explain to us, explain to all of the Americans in here why we should want Donald Trump not to tax the rest of the world, but continue to tax the shit out of us. Please explain it, Justin. Bro, our U.S. companies pay the tariffs, bro. When do our U.S. companies pay the tariffs, Justin? Because you're leaving out something. When do our U.S. companies pay the tariffs, bro? When do U.S. companies pay tariffs, Justin? Come on. Come on. Come on, Justin. When do U.S. companies pay tariffs, Justin? Why did he stop talking? Why did he stop talking? He was adamant a minute ago. Why did he stop talking? I need y'all to hit the Cash App and support the show for this headache that I'm going to get. Please, 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 please hit the Cash App and support the show, because I know this is going to be a headache. This jackass said, I don't know how tariffs work, as if tariffs are that complicated. Bro, our U.S. companies pay the tariffs, bro, then raise the prices on our goods, which we then have to pay. No. Okay. The only time that a U.S. company would pay a tariff is if they are the only time that a U.S. company is going to pay a tariff is if that U.S. company is based outside of the country and they are importing goods into America. It's a punishment. So if you have a manufacturing company and you decide that you don't want to manufacture those products in America because you have to pay a higher wage to the workers, and you base your factory in another country where you can get cheaper labor, and then you have to import those products into America, then Trump would say to you, oh, you want to keep your American company in another country so that you can get cheaper labor. Well, guess what? I'm going to put a tariff on the products that you send here. Now, because Trump put a tariff on that U.S. company that's located outside of the country, they will try to mitigate that cost by raising the price of the products that they're selling. But we live in a free market. Nobody's making you buy those products, Justin. We have a capitalist economy. And because we have a capitalist economy, we try to avoid allowing monopolies, okay? So if there's a company that's an American company that is based in another country, and let's say for argument's sake that they're making flat screen TVs, and those flat screen TVs that are being shipped into this country have tariffs put on them, and that company decides to raise the price of those flat screen TVs, guess what? You don't have to buy that flat screen TV. You could buy a different one. In fact, it's actually a pretty good tool to use because it would encourage that company not to be located outside of the country. It would encourage them to have their company here in America. Now, I know what you're going to say. It doesn't matter. If the company's here in America, they have to pay the workers more wages. And if they have to pay the workers higher wages, they're going to inevitably raise the price of their product anyway. Well, that's the reason why Trump is giving tax cuts to companies that decide to remain here in America. If he gives tax cuts to companies that remain here in America and manufacture their products here in America, it's not going to hurt as much that they have to pay those workers a higher wage than what they would pay workers that are in another country. But every single time he talks about cutting taxes or giving a tax break to these corporations, the first thing that the Democrats and the lefty scream is, oh, he's looking out for his billionaire buddies. He's looking out for the elite, when really what he's looking out for is the consumer. Because if he gives a tax cut to the companies that are here in America that are manufacturing those products, those companies can pay those workers a living wage without having to raise the price of the product because they're getting a tax break. Does that sound right? Does that sound about right? Or you could have a company that's not an American company. It could be a Chinese company that are sending products here, that they're building with dirt cheap labor because they have a communist country. So they have workers over there that are getting paid significantly less to build inferior products because the products they send over here are not as good as the products they keep for themselves. That's the reason why those Chinese products that come over here are dirt cheap, because they're sending you inferior products. So Trump says, you know what? You're not going to keep getting rich off America. So what we're going to do is we're going to put tariffs on you. Okay, now the Chinese company wants to raise their prices. So the hell what? Maybe that would encourage Americans to buy American. Maybe that would actually create an economy where Americans can actually compete with the rest of the world. Maybe that would encourage people to build things here, which would put us back in the space that we were before, where we produced a lot of our own products. So now we're not as dependent on other countries. And now those other countries don't have leverage on us to say, hey, if you don't do what we want you to do when it comes to this, we're going to stop sending this type of battery, or we're going to stop sending this, or we're going to stop sending that, which is a product that you need for your infrastructure. Nah, we're not going to do that because we make the product here that we need for our infrastructure. We are completely self-sustaining and self-contained. So yeah, we can use your products if we would like, but we don't have to, so you don't have leverage on us. But on the flip side, we'll always have leverage on you because America is a huge market in the economy, and no country outside of this world wants to do business if they're not able to import their products here in America and actually make some damn money. Does that sound about right? Justin? Somebody do me a favor and press 1 in the chat if it sounds like I know how tariffs work. And by the way, when Trump was first in office and he started bringing up this whole thing about the tariffs, there were numerous economists that came out and tried to say Trump didn't know what he was talking about. And guess what? The market proved that he did know what he was talking about. And if you think I'm lying, go do your research. And see, the mainstream media is linked in with a lot of the Democrats. So the mainstream media is the mouthpiece of the Democrats. So what the mainstream media does is it feeds you a bunch of bullshit misinformation about tariffs because that's the agenda of the Democrats, because a lot of them have a lot of foreign interests. Dumbass. But I guess you want to keep sitting over here being taxed into the poorhouse. I guess you want to keep sitting over here eating food that's bullshit while the rest of the world eats food that has less chemicals, less bullshit in it. I guess you want your country to keep declining. But here's my thing. For every last one of you that have a problem with everything that Trump's doing, including the tariffs and everything else, if you have so much of a problem with what he's doing and you're so worried about him taxing or putting tariffs on foreign countries, since you love those foreign countries so much, why don't you do us all a favor, pack your shit and get the fuck out of our country? And I'm not even talking to immigrants. I'm talking to you people that were born here that got a problem with him trying to do shit that's going to fix this damn country. You're so worried about Canada, take your ass to Canada. You're so worried about China, take your ass to China. Talking about we pay tariffs. No, we don't, you moron. You don't even know what the hell you talking about. If the mainstream media told your ass the moon was made out of blue cheese, you go grab some crackers and run to SpaceX because you want to see what the moon tastes like. That's how dumb you are. Coming in here talking about you don't know how tariffs work. You better check my resume, son. Know who the hell you talking to? When I was in high school, I had an economics teacher that ran for damn Congress. I'm going to say that again. When I was in high school, I had an economics teacher that ran for Congress. Now, I'm not going to say his name because I ain't going to put him on blast like that. But the way he taught economics, he taught it like he was a college professor. You don't know who the hell you talking to. You don't know what you dealing with. Don't come in here and look at my damn baseball cap and my damn hoodie and think that I'm some ignorant nigga that don't know what I'm talking about. Because the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to get embarrassed. Dipshit. Well, you don't know how tariffs work. You don't know how my sack works. Goofy ass motherfucker.
and we may do a 15.
All right, next up, the Fed is more worried about Trump tariffs than interest rates or the money supply, and they're just panicking over the Trump tariffs. So we got to talk about it. Today was Fed Day. They didn't do anything on the interest rate front, but we're going to have Dan Clifton, partner and head of policy research as...
That's right. Economic news and shit like that. See, this is shit I'll be watching when you niggas be watching basketball. You niggas be watching basketball and football and love and hip hop or whatever other dumb shit you be watching. I watch shit like this. And I don't watch shit like this just for content. Back in 2008, before I was even a content creator, you know what one of my favorite shows was? Mad Money with Jim Cramer. I even remember that epic interview he did when he said that everyone in the economy were morons. They didn't know what they were talking about. They were headed for disaster. And right after that, you know what happened? We got the housing crash. I pay attention to this shit so much that when I was a freaking teenager, I had a subscription to Money Magazine and Fortune Magazine. And I can't remember which one it was, Fortune or Money. One issue, they actually sent you $2 bills that had the serial numbers that were right behind each other. Can't remember what issue it was. But guess what? Back then, if I would have had access to the stock market the way I do now, I actually wanted to invest in Google when it first started. So understanding the economy and shit like this is not new for me.
All right, next up, the Fed is more worried about Trump tariffs than interest rates or the money supply, and they're just panicking over the Trump tariffs. So we got to talk about it. Today was...
Exactly, Alex. I used to watch Rush Limbaugh when I was a kid. How many kids you know like watching Rush Limbaugh? Nigga, I'm different.
All right, next up, the Fed is more worried about Trump tariffs than interest rates or the money supply, and they're just panicking over the Trump tariffs. So we got to talk about it. Today was Fed Day. They didn't do anything on the interest rate front, but we're going to have Dan Clifton, partner and head of policy research at Strategic Securities, John Carney, Breitbart Finance and Economics editor and co-author of the daily Breitbart Business Digest. Gentlemen, thank you. You know, Dan Clifton, reading your report today, hearkening back to 2018, the Fed may make the exact same mistakes. They're going to, I mean, and by the way, this is a Federal Reserve Board in Washington where the staff and whoever governors, what was the number? 90%, over 80% donated money to Democrats. So I just want to want to remind people of that. Now, your point is, and I think John's going to agree, but your point is the Fed is crazy about tariffs. The economists at the Fed are going to say it's...
And the Fed don't want to cut the rate because they don't want Trump to benefit from it. So if you're wondering why the Fed didn't cut the rate, it's because they don't want Trump to benefit from it.
What was the number? 90%, over 80% donated money to Democrats. So I just want to want to remind people of that. Now, your point is, and I think John's going to agree, but your point is the Fed is crazy about tariffs. The economists at the Fed are going to say it's inflationary, just like they did in 2018 and 2019, and they might raise rates and really damage the Trump boom. What do you make of this, Dan Clifton?
You hear that? You hear that? In 2018, they tried to say that the tariffs would be inflationary, and they were wrong. They were wrong. Just like they wrong right now. Justin.
Yeah, so let me just, as you know better than anybody, because you were in the White House at that time, We did a massive pro-growth tax cut at the end of 2017. We did small tariffs on China, maybe about $50 billion of tariffs on China over the course of 2018. And the Fed just got really worried that this was inflationary, that the higher growth from the tax cut and the tariffs. And so they made a decision to keep rates high and elevated throughout all of 2018, Larry. And what they did was they cut off growth. You could see it in the yield curve flattening all throughout the year. And boom, December of 2018 comes and the S&P 500 falls 20% in the month of December. And they were then forced to cut. So they were wrong. Trump was right. And that's okay. People make mistakes.
In other words, you would have had an even better economy under Trump if there weren't so many bureaucrats and individuals trying to undercut what he was doing because they did not want to see him succeed as a president.
I don't get everything right, but they are literally using the same logic today to justify higher interest rates now.
Yeah.
They were all about cutting rates in September. Today, they're all about, whoa, the inflation is not moderating down.
The entire time that Biden was in office, they was all about cutting rates. Now, all of a sudden, they don't want to. Gee, I wonder why.
And we're worried about tariffs. This is 3 meetings in a row where they've been focused on tariffs.
John Carney, Dan makes awful good points here. By the way, I think that, you correct me if I'm wrong, but my suspicion, let me put it to you that way, the Fed's staff, the Washington staff, and 300 or 400 economists, they think Trump, first of all, is not a good president. They're not Trumpers. They're anti-Trumpers. Second of all, they think the tariffs will be inflationary. That's one way of getting at Trump, which is what Dan is describing. Third of all, John, as you pointed out, we've discussed, the Fed thinks, strong growth is inflationary. They have this Phillips curve thing. So on all 3 counts, and that's what's so worrisome. And you have the Fed spokesperson, the Wall Street Journal reporter, Nick Timiraos. He's writing columns about the Fed's fear of tariffs, right? Timiraos is always a leading indicator. You look at his stories, he never seems to mention any conservatives or Republicans, just the liberals, anti-Trumpers. Anyway, what do you make of this, John? Do you see it? Are you worried about it? Or would the Fed just do what they're supposed to do, John Carney? Wait, do nothing until the Trump plan is passed and implemented.
I think they're playing a very interesting game. Because you're absolutely right. The Wall Street Journal printed Nick Timiraos' story, and it was clearly meant to say that the Fed is very worried about inflation from these tariffs. But today, in his press conference, Powell took a very different stance. He absolutely refused to hit back at the tariffs. I think that he may have gotten the message overnight that Wall Street Journal article was a mistake, that he was politicizing the Fed. And he very clearly said, I'm not going to talk about tariffs. They asked him, will you talk about DEI then? No, we wouldn't talk about that. Will you talk about deporting people? No, I won't talk about that. He actually got a little religion overnight, and he's trying to get back into the Fed's lane, which is where he should be, controlling inflation, not, talking about what the proper trade policy of the United States.
But the thing that's so amazing, look, I don't believe this tariff, whatever Jay Powell may or may not have said today, I don't think the tariff fear is over. I think that you've got a lot of economists in the board whispering in his ear. But there's nothing to report about yet. But Dan, what's so interesting, we've now, I think Colombia, the Trump threatening Colombia, on accepting deported criminals back to Colombia. We didn't get the 25 or 50% tariff on Colombia because of Trump's tariff diplomacies. They didn't do it. And I think, judging from what Howard Lutnick said today in his confirmation hearings for Commerce Secretary, and what the press secretary said yesterday, it sounds like Canada and Mexico are helping us sufficiently, the U.S. government, on the border, so we won't get those 25% tariffs either. I mean, in other words, it's so interesting. The people who are crazed about tariffs don't understand Trump. They don't understand.
Now, that's actually incorrect, because from what I understand, I think Trump is still going to hit Canada and Mexico with those 25% tariffs. I could be wrong, but I think I saw somewhere where he said directly out of his mouth that he was still going to hit them with those tariffs, and I think Canada is upset about that. But tough shit. What are they going to do about it?
Understand his negotiation. They don't understand tariff diplomacy. Because he's so good at it, we don't get the kind of tariff hikes that everyone's, talking about.
Well, Larry, I think you're absolutely right. And what I would say is that the threat of tariffs are not real if people just think that it's a threat. I think President Trump will use those tariffs if he's not getting what he wants, whether that...
And by the way, Justin, let me tell you something about me. If I took this hoodie off, if I traded in my hoodie and my hat for a suit and trimmed my beard down a little bit to be more conservative and pursued public office, I would be a dangerous motherfucker. Like, don't play with me, Justin. You don't know who you dealing with. You don't know who you dealing with. You don't know who you dealing with. You know what my mother said to me one time? She said, you should go take the bar exam. I said, don't you got to go to school for that? She said, you ain't got to go to school for that. You can just go take the exam. She said, I think you'd pass it. And you know what I told her? I said, you're probably right. Like, stop playing with me. I know y'all come in here and you think that every single person that you see of color, and I'm not race baiting, but I got to point it out. You think that every person of color you see is a damn idiot. And that shit is annoying. It's annoying as hell, bro. It is annoying as hell. It's annoying as hell. That's the entire reason why y'all wouldn't give me that win over that back and forth I had with Destiny. Because for some reason, you seem to think that white men are more intelligent than black men. That's not how that works. Your intelligence is not based on your race. It's not based on your gender. It's not based on your religion. It's not based on any of that shit. It's based on your intelligence. Okay? It's based on your intelligence.
That's in Mexico or China or wherever it's going to be. The key issue here is that what is the plan? We may do tariffs and we may do a 15% corporate domestic rate cut at the same time. You don't know that. And does that change your equation overall? The Fed should not be in this business of trying to do that. And what they're doing is they're taking all the bad, what they see the bad, a tighter immigration and the tariffs, and they're not looking at the good, the construction of the LNG export terminals and the energy renaissance that's coming and the pro-growth tax cuts. And if you're only focused on the bad, you're going to get monetary policy wrong and you're going to make a great policy error. And that's the lesson from 2018. And unfortunately, much of the news flow from the Fed since the election has been following that path. And so their rhetoric may have changed. I think that's a good thing. But actions are going to speak louder than words.
John Carney, I got 20 seconds. I would take a 15% tariff and then put the 15% tariff proceeds into a 15% tax rate on businesses. And might even put it a 15% capital gains tax in there too. What do you think? 15, 15, 15.
Larry, we could do an even bigger tax cut than that. The corporate, if we had tariffs in place that were generating revenues, we could almost eliminate the corporate tax altogether. Can you imagine how great that would be for American businesses?
That is hot.
Oh, please do. Please, for the love of God, eliminate the corporate tax. Please. Please do that.
stuff.
We brought that down. So 15% might be a good starting place, but let's go lower. Let's aim for the best, get that tax rate as far down as we can. Trump loves McKinley. He loves going. He loves bringing up.
I got to jump.
When we were generating real revenue.
Thanks to both of you. Really, thank you, John Carney, Dan Clifton. You're both terrific. Thanks.
So, Justin, I do believe you didn't know what you were talking about. What do y'all think, BINO Nation? What do y'all think, BINO Nation? What do y'all think? It sounds like to me Justin didn't know what he was talking about. That's what it sounds like to me, Justin. Sound like to me you didn't know what the hell you were talking about, broski. Sound like to me you was repeating some shit that you heard somebody else say. And see, that's the problem. When you repeat shit that you hear other people say, instead of knowing what you're talking about, and then you come across somebody that does know what they're talking about, you end up looking like a moron. Yeah, he definitely hit them with the tariff because Canada's mad about it. Canada's upset about it. And look, I don't care if other countries is upset with us. Because guess what? If other countries loved us during the Biden administration. You know why? Because they could get whatever the hell they wanted out of him. That's the reason why they loved Joe Biden, because he was a pushover. They loved Joe Biden because they could walk all over his ass. See, they can't walk all over Trump. We talking about the art of the deal here, baby. What's in it for us? You feel me? What's in it for us? U.S., what's in it for us? That's what Trump is asking. You feel me? And you know why? Because he's more interested in the prosperity of you, the average American citizen, instead of himself, his colleagues, the lobbyists, and special interest groups. That's the difference. That is the difference. And that's the main reason why he's getting so much pushback from these damn Democrats, because their priorities is to the special interest groups, the lobbyists, and foreign interests. So what are we talking about, Justin? What are we talking about, Justin? What are we talking about? You know what I used to do? You know what I used to do for extra money? See, the funny thing about it is, no, I'm not a college graduate, because I'm one of those people that don't see the point in a college degree. Unless you're in STEM, you know what I'm saying? Unless you're in, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Unless you're going for something that is, skilled or whatever, I really don't see the point in that. And I didn't want to be an engineer. I didn't want to be a lawyer. I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't want to be any of those things. So I know going to college would have been a waste of my damn time. You understand? But as a young man in my 20s, you know what I used to do for extra money? I would write papers for college students. That's right. I put an ad on Craigslist, and college students would pay me to write their paper for them. And there's a lot of college students that got A's, that aced their freaking papers because of me. So again, Justin, again, you don't know who you're dealing with. Okay? You don't know who you're dealing with. You come in here running your mouth, but you don't know what you're talking about. You don't have a damn clue. All right? Now, if you were to come up here and have a conversation with me and try to come at me sideways like that, I would immediately go into psychologist mode and break down why you operate the way you operate and piss you off thoroughly. Because one of the other things I like to do is I like to read psychology books. Not because I'm in college, not because I'm taking a test, but because I have a thirst for knowledge. I genuinely have a thirst for knowledge. I love history. I love the way economies work and the inner workings of it. I even love the way the game of politics is played. And if you really want to understand how modern politics is played, or those that play it the best, all you had to do is read The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. In fact, one of my favorite quotes from his book is, "No man can be good all of the time, lest he come to ruin amongst the great number of men who are not good. Hence, a prince must learn to use or refrain from using that knowledge as necessity requires." I can quote Machiavelli. I can quote Dostoevsky. I can quote Socrates. I can quote Plato. I can quote Malcolm X. I can quote James Baldwin. You don't know what you're dealing with when you come over here to the Angryman channel. And by the way, here's the other thing. There's something that I do on purpose. I do this on purpose. One of my favorite television characters is Dr. Gregory House. Why is he my favorite character? Because when you first look at him, he doesn't seem to be as intelligent as he actually is. In fact, you wouldn't even think he was a doctor, right? But he tends to get pleasure out of being smarter than everybody else. Typical Sigma trait, right? In fact, he said one time that when he was a kid on that show, he said when he was a kid, his father was in the military, was stationed in Japan. And he said there was somebody in the hospital that was really sick and they didn't know how to cure him. And they went to this guy that was a janitor and they called him in there and he knew what to do to get the person better. And he was a janitor. He said it didn't matter what school he went to. It didn't matter what his credentials were. What mattered is he knew how to do the job. Like, one of my fantasies is to learn to play classical piano so that one day I can go to an event where there's a bunch of stuffed shirt yuppies, a bunch of elitist snobs that think they're better than everybody. And I walk in there looking like this with my hoodie and my baseball cap and my beard, talking in slang, talking in layman's terms, and allow them to thoroughly make an assessment of who I am. Allow their prejudice to run wild. Allow them to think that I'm just some common thug from the streets. And once they have thoroughly believed that I am that, sit down at the piano in that event and play Beethoven. Watch the look on their faces as they begin to realize that they are not as intelligent as they think they are. They are merely bigots who spend most of their time judging books by its cover. See, I purposely give you a certain cover so that you come in here thinking that I'm a fucking idiot. So that I can then turn around and show the world that, no, I'm not an idiot. You're the fucking idiot. You're the dumbass. Now you got to go deal with that. Now you got to go figure out where you went wrong. Okay? But it's very simple. Where you went wrong is you judged a book by its cover. You don't know how intelligent I am. In fact, the majority of the time, I dumb myself down. It's kind of like Goku on Dragon Ball Z when he gets into fights with people in his base form. You ask yourself, why the hell is he fighting them in his base form? He could go Super Saiyan and beat them right now. Maybe he likes the challenge of it. Maybe he likes to play with his food. But coming in here telling me you don't know how tariffs work, how would I not know how something as elementary as a tariff works? You fucking idiot. I could sit here and have a conversation with you about string theory. I could sit here and break down Einstein's theory of relativity. I could have conversations with you about what's a good topic? What's that one topic that everybody loves to try to reference, but they rarely ever know anything about it? Is it evolutionary? Is it evolutionary biology? Evolutionary psychology? No, what I'm thinking about is am I thinking about the evolution of desire by William Buss? What field is that William Buss is in? William Buss and Richard Dawkins. What field is that? What field is that William Buss and Richard Dawkins is in? Is it evolutionary biology? See, now y'all got me having to look shit up. Oh, that's David Buss. My fault. Why am I thinking about William? Told y'all I'm horrible with names. I'm horrible with names. The Evolution of Desire by David M. Buss. David M. Buss. Yeah, there was actually another content creator that loved to take quotes from The Evolution of Desire and got into a huge argument with me about David M. Buss. And the first thing he said to me is he said, well, have you read The Evolution of Desire? And I said, no, I haven't read The Evolution of Desire. Well, we can't have this conversation. I said, okay, I'll tell you what, give me a couple of days. Now, I really don't have any desire. I really had no desire to read The Evolution of Desire because for me, a lot of it, I think it's bullshit. I think it's bullshit because I think that Richard Dawkins makes better points in The Selfish Gene. But I read it anyway. And then when I went back to debate him about it, I said, yeah, I caught him off guard because he was on the panel. I jumped up there. I said, yeah, so you told me to go read The Evolution of Desire. I actually read it. Are you ready to have the debate now? He didn't want to have the debate. So since he didn't want to have the debate, I went over to my channel and cooked his ass about it because the funny thing about it is I told him that Richard Dawkins makes better points in The Selfish Gene, and The Selfish Gene kind of contradicts the entire concept of The Evolution of Desire. And I said, plus, David M. Buss actually pulls a lot of his knowledge from Richard Dawkins. So it really didn't make any sense to me that David M. Buss would make some of the assertions that he made in The Evolution of Desire, right? Because basically what the guy was trying to say, the guy that I was having a debate with, he was basically trying to say that, a woman's desire or the desire for mating should evolve as we evolve. In other words, because nowadays, women usually try to go after the bigger, stronger alpha male because back in the day, that's what was required. She needed a man that was big, strong, aggressive, all of those different things. But in this day and age, a man doesn't have to be big, strong, and aggressive. He just has to be a provider. So what this particular guy was doing, and it was kind of like an incel argument, he was trying to say that nowadays the women should be desiring the guys that are the nerds because those are the ones that actually grow up to be successful and have more resources and things of that nature. And what I was trying to say to him is that's not necessarily true. Regardless of what we've evolved into in this short period of time, you cannot circumvent hundreds of thousands of years of bioevolution. Women are still going to want to be with the bigger, stronger, more aggressive male. And he said, no, he doesn't agree with that, not because it's an actuality, but because that's what he wants, because he's not the bigger, stronger male. He's one of the guys that was more willing to go out and get good grades and then get a good job and work and, make the money that he made. So he felt like the best women should desire him. And I said, well, that's not how that works. In fact, if you read Richard Dawkins, you read The Selfish Gene, you understand the reason why women will still pick the bigger, stronger male is because that particular male has more likelihood of giving them a stronger offspring that would be able to survive in whatever conditions. So that was the argument that I was trying to make. I wish I would have kept that stream up so that y'all could actually go back and see it. But as y'all know, back then, there were a lot of people that were intimidated by me and intimidated by my intelligence. So what they would do is they would try to go on flagging campaigns and try to shut me down. So a lot of my content that a lot of people have stolen, a lot of people have borrowed, I had to take down. So now I don't have any evidence to prove that I actually put out certain content and said certain quotes and said certain things. But at the end of the day, the evidence is me. You're seeing it right now. funniest thing about all of this is there's always people that think street niggas don't know anything. Which really doesn't make any sense. Because if you find a guy out here that's in the streets, let's say he's a drug dealer. In order for him to be a drug dealer, he has to be skilled at leadership. He has to be skilled at conflict resolution. He has to be skilled in strategy. He has to be skilled in possibly military tactics. He has to be skilled in economics. He has to be skilled in chemistry. Otherwise, he's not going to be very good at what he's doing. The problem with people is they assume that just because someone comes from a certain background or that they have some sort of disadvantage, that has something to do with their intelligence. That's not how that works. I'm a firm believer that a lot of people are born with their intelligence. You feel me? Now, does that mean that people cannot become more intelligent? No. People can become more intelligent, but it's kind of like playing basketball, right? You could have somebody that goes and they learn to play basketball and they don't have any natural talent, but because they're willing to put in the hard work and practice and practice and practice, they can get really good. The only problem is they're not going to be able to surpass someone who works that hard that also has the natural talent, like a Michael Jordan. You feel what I'm saying? It's kind of like the thing with Dragon Ball Z. I told y'all everything I needed to know about life I learned from Dragon Ball Z. It's kind of like with Frieza. Frieza had a natural talent for fighting and energy manipulation and stuff like that. Goku, however, had to work for it. So did Vegeta. Vegeta had a little bit of a natural talent, but he also had to work for it as well because he found himself running into walls and reaching ceilings or whatever. So he had to figure out how to bust through that ceiling. But what happened the moment that Frieza actually went and trained? When he actually went and trained, not only did he close the gap between him and the Saiyans, but he even passed them. So it's kind of like that. That's why I said I would be a dangerous individual if I actually decided to pursue a career in academia. If I actually decided back in the day, you know what, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to learn everything I can learn in college in academia, I would have been very dangerous. Very dangerous, because I'm here to tell you right now, when it comes to the Thomas Sowells of the world, the Victor Davis Hansons, the Jordan Petersons, all of these individuals that are extremely intelligent, never have I watched them speak and found anything that they were saying complicated. Ever. It's kind of like when Goku was fighting Cell, and he was fighting Cell with everything that he had, and they was getting ready to put Gohan in there, and they're like, you can't put Gohan in there. He's a kid. He's like, trust me, you don't know how powerful Gohan is. He said, son, let me ask you something. When you were watching us fight, was there any time that you couldn't keep up with our movements? He said, no. He said, did you think we were just warming up? He's like, yeah, I was waiting for y'all to get serious. He's like, I don't know about Cell, but I was giving it all that I had. He's like, the reason why you thought I wasn't being serious is because you were comparing our fighting to your ability. To your ability. Whenever I have conversations with people, I always compare their intelligence to mine. So when they're saying things and I'm sitting back listening to it and it sounds really simple to me, it lets me know that I'm either on par with your level of intelligence or I might be more intelligent. I'm just not classically trained in academia. I'm self-taught. And I did that on purpose when I was younger, because once I got older, I did not want anybody to be able to take credit for my intelligence. I didn't want a university to take credit for it. I didn't want a mentor to take credit for it. I didn't want a teacher to take credit for it. I wanted my intelligence to be my own. I wanted to be my own man and self-made, which I've accomplished. So, Justin, when you and individuals like you come over here to challenge me, I'm going to need you to step your game up first. But anyway. And damn, I've been up here talking for a minute. Shit. I've been up here talking for a minute. That's crazy. Oh, I know why the support is lackluster. It's the first of the month. Y'all folks had to pay rent. That's what it is. Yo, shout out to Solby. I think that's how you pronounce that. Appreciate you. Shout out to Ahmad. Appreciate you. Shout out to Big Joker. Said, I heard the funniest shit ever today. A you know what, black you know what, saying one of her dating standards is no Trump supporters. She eliminated 3/4 of men on that alone. And the other 20% guys don't want to date Jabba. They nuts, bro. Shout out to JM. He said, for the headache fund. Shout out to Yoshi. He said, get him. Shout out to One Mike. Said, I had to drop you something for this. I've been having these same arguments with black liberals, and it's exhausting. Keep cooking them, AM. Shout out to Warrior for Truth. Said, indeed, bro, Trump cut the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21% and cut regulations in which made the economy the best we've seen in years. Facts. Shout out to Eye of Rock Gaming. He said, keep cooking, AM. Let them know you got to have some knowledge and intelligence up in here. That's right.
$50 boss up. Stack up and match up.
Shout out to Traditional at Heart. Said, I listen to Limbaugh every morning when he went off. That was time for us to leave to go to school. I was in the 9th grade. Keep cooking, AM. Appreciate you. Glad to see I'm not the only one that used to watch or listen to Rush Limbaugh. May he rest in peace. Shout out to Joyce. Appreciate you, Joyce. Let's see. Shout out to Global Pastimes. He said, for the headache. Shout out to Derek. He said, salute, big bro. BINO Nation. Shout out to Man Miller. He said, MAGA. Shout out to Jarrell. He said, I sleep better knowing you exist. Keep cooking. Appreciate you. Shout out to King TR. He said, talk that tariff shit. Shout out to Javier. He said, support. He said, JVR. My bad. Spell almost exactly like Javier. Appreciate you. Shout out to Crocodile Tears. He said, informal learning just as good as formal learning. Yeah. Sometimes it's better because it's more organic instead of having somebody that's trying to steer you down a certain path of a certain ideology. Shout out to Hendo. He said, let's get it, AM. I tend to notice that a lot of people from academia, they tend to have certain beliefs that I don't really agree with. I kind of feel like Doc Holliday when it comes to that. If you remember when Doc Holliday was, when he was standing there and he said to his wife, he said, that's Ringo, the fastest gun they say since Wild Bill. He said, I don't know, should I hate him? Something around the eyes. And then he said something in Latin, and Ringo understood it. And Ringo started talking back to him in Latin. And he said, that's Latin, darling. apparently Ringo is an educated man. Now I really hate him. Yo, Val Kilmer, he killed that role as Doc Holliday. That is one of my favorite characters in any Western. Of course, he wasn't just a character. He was actually a real person. But that was one of my favorite characters in the movie Tombstone. One of my favorite characters. But anyway, man, I've been on here long enough running my mouth. I could probably talk trash for another 5 hours. But there's no need for me to do that. Shout out to everybody that came through. I appreciate y'all for sticking it out with me this long. Real talk. We didn't really go that much into the DEI black stuff, but it doesn't matter. Like, it's not like we're not gonna talk about it again. You know what I'm saying? Like, and the whole reason why these streams have been longer, since Trump has been in office, there has been so much going on. There's so much to cover. So I hope y'all are happy. Y'all now have the street conservative back, because there's so much to cover in politics. I feel like we're going to be talking mostly about politics for the foreseeable future. Shout out to the Diz. He said the narrow path is the road less traveled. No doubt. So yeah, we're going to be talking about politics for the foreseeable future. So buckle up. Buckle up. When you guys get a chance, go check out my book, The Angryman Standard, which is available on Amazon. All you got to do is type The Angryman Standard in the search bar and it will come up. Also, if you want to check out some of the merchandise, BINO Nation shirts, all of those different things, all you have to do is go to shop.binonation.com. Again, that's shop.binonation.com. But other than that, man, I appreciate you guys for tuning into the show and hanging out with me. Shout out to everybody that hit the like button. Shout out to everybody that supported the show. We did not get a sponsor today. I wish we could have got a sponsor today, but we didn't. It is what it is. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. I'm going to holler at y'all later. Deuces.
Spartans! What is your profession?